In January 2021, we are close to a 1 trillion market capitalization in all the cryptocurrency space. It took off after 2017, roughly, and we've had basically an uptrend. The peak for Bitcoin is really around 753 billion. And as I said, the whole space is close to 1 trillion. So whether you are an asset manager or a financial advisor or just a plain investor, you can't ignore a market that has grown to $1 trillion. That's pretty close to the capitalization of some of the GAFA stocks, the major big tech stocks. And what's more is that most respectable institutional grade research these days predicts this market to grow to a 3 trillion market capitalization by 2025. These are the Fidelities of the world, ARK Invest, and others. So we're talking about a tripling or quadrupling of the market capitalization as what is expected. Innovation happens or gets adopted, I think, but before what proceeds is there's a shift in the narrative. And that shift in the narrative has happened around sustainability. And that's why we're seeing in many, by many metrics, in many parts, change around sustainability. I was looking at some concrete figures around flows in ESG funds. And Calastone was reporting that in December 2020, ESG net inflows surpassed 1 billion pounds, a record number. That's just one example. There's many more such examples. You see the interest. So there's definitely a shift in the narrative. But I must say that we're really early in this process of integrating the narrative around sustainability really into our life. We have a big gap even with respect to our consumer behavior. I think that we are more advanced in terms of our consumer behavior and our awareness around sustainability when we shop for food, for clothes, and so on. We are much more aware and we make choices that are in alignment with sustainability more than in investing. Even though there are fundamentals behind Bitcoin, for the most part, they are left for the techie people, for really the crypto natives. And there are fundamentals, and I can argue this against those that don't believe it. Much like you look in regular markets at macro fundamentals, you might be looking at money velocity, you might be looking at inflation metrics, you might be looking at other macroeconomic factors. The corresponding in this space is to look at the Bitcoin network and, for example, look at the hash rate, which is really the processing power within the network. And right now, I can tell you the hash rate is at all-time highs. You can look at other more simple and understandable network metrics, like what are the number of transactions that are processed per day. or what is the dollar amount, or the amount in Bitcoins or some other denomination that is processed per day. You could also be looking at software upgrades, and I showed you here too. But the truth of the matter is that most investors don't follow these network fundamentals. On the contrary, what the market has been trading an investment, is basically on different narratives. Some may argue that the market has been trading on sentiment and of course technical analysis and so on, but really what it's paying attention to is these narratives. And the truth is that Bitcoin has more than one narrative, and these narratives, their dominance changes over time. Right now, we are trading, the market is reflecting its behavior is around the narrative of scarcity and digital gold. And why is that? Because it is seen as an innovative way to deal with the global monetary dead end that we are finding ourselves with, all this money printing and intervention from the central banks, coordinated and global, if you like. But as I said, Bitcoin has other narratives that could become more dominant, or their importance could increase. We still operate in silos, and we make decisions that are siloed, right? So our, borrowing needs, right, are separate than our investing needs, and I'm talking as a corporate, right? So we haven't put the whole picture together. We are at a very early stage, and again, the risk is that we're struggling to innovate and move forward and say, okay, I as a corporate, I'm going to issue a bond, and it's going to be a sustainability bond because, for example, I'm borrowing these funds towards renewable energy, whatever, whether if we're a service company, it will be, our buildings and everything. If we're a product company, to change our manufacturing process and so on.